Pierce, final seconds. Pierce puts it up for the win. Knocks it down. Celtics win.
Dwayne Wade, LeBron James exercising some demons versus this Celtic team.
James for three. Does it again. What a performance so far for LeBron James.
You can see Doc Rivers very emotional already. The Heat win the Eastern Conference Finals in 7 games.
Blocked at the rim by Bam.
Miami's improbable run will continue. The Heat are going back to the NBA Finals.
This is a Miami Heat avalanche. Tatum throws it down.
What a bounce-back game for Boston. Strus for three. It's good. The Miami Heat with the definition of a hard-fought win.
And with that, the scene is set. Heat, Celtics, TD Garden Game 4. So much is on the line, and tip-off is just hours away. Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews, joined as always by Richard Jefferson, Kendrick Perkins, who walked on the set about 30 seconds ago, and senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. So, gentlemen, before we jump in here, let's take a quick look at the Heat's injury report because, oh boy, it is extensive. So let's take a look at it. And as you can see, Tyler Hero, he is not going to be playing tonight. He is out, while several other big-time contributors, all of them are listed as questionable. So there is a whole lot going on there. Woj, what are you hearing about the likelihood of Jimmy Butler playing tonight?
Yeah, the expectation is Jimmy Butler will be back, left at halftime with knee inflammation in game 3. Yep. But the expectation is he's going to warm up tonight, and the Heat will get him back in the lineup. So
good news on the Jimmy Butler front, but Tyler Hero, what are you hearing about the extensiveness of his injury here?
Well, good news for Miami, although they'll be without Tyler Hero tonight, that the groin injury is mild in nature, and that the expectation is with some rest now between tonight and then the series returning to Miami for Game 5, that the Heat will get Tyler Hero back in Game 5. And so certainly that's important for them. Real opportunity again for Victor Oladipo tonight to make an impact the way he did in the Heat's victory in Game 3.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. On the flip side, what are you hearing about the status of both Marcus Smart and Robert Williams here?
I'm told that there's some optimism on Robert Williams returning to the lineup for Boston tonight. That knee, I think, is going to be a game-to-game endeavor through the whole postseason. How he feels having played, how the recovery takes shape for him. But I think right now there's some optimism. He can get back on the court. They really missed him against Bam Adebayo. You saw him go to work on Boston. So while they hope and there's optimism on Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, he has been going through rehab and treatment really almost around the clock since the Saturday night. The hope is, he can get closer to game time and get a sense. He's a player who does not like to miss time. No. I think the sense was adrenaline got him through the rest of Game 3. But it's a significant ankle injury. I think we'll know closer to game time tonight if Marcus Smart can play for Boston.
It was certainly scary watching him go down. You could hear a pin drop in the arena. It was so quiet in here, and you could hear him screaming. We don't need to play that again. Enough. All right, let's go back to Tyler Hero, because although he was 0 for 6 from 3, what is the impact, Perk, of not having him on the floor tonight going to be for Miami?
Well, I think it hurts. It hurts Boston. Hurts Boston and help the Heat. Yeah, for the simple fact that he hasn't been playing well. So if I'm the Celtics, I actually want this version of Tyler Hero. But now it looks at the depth, right, of the Miami Heat and the great coaching of Eric Spoelstra throughout the entire season, right? Plug and replace, getting guys ready to be ready for the moment. Like, you're looking at a guy like the kid Martin that come in off the bench, and then now Duncan Robinson, Victor Oladipo. We talked about his impact and what he did on the defensive side of things, but let's not forget, he's a guy that could light you up for a 20 to 30-piece wing dinner, also coming in off the bench. So you look at these defensive plays right here, it's all about the culture, right? All about the setting, being in the right place at the right time, things to that nature. I thought he did a great great job of communicating, frustrating guys, sliding them puppies. Look, being active, deflections. They talked about Jason Tatum's and his turnovers, but they were forced turnovers. Look, getting up over screens, fighting Jaylen Brown, making it hard on them, fighting him where he can't get position, and then look, getting up into him, clogging his ass space. He can't even turn the pivot. Got him on his heels.
That's a forced turnover.
Yes, that's a forced turnover.
Look, when I look at Tyler Hero, I understand that. I know everyone wants to talk about the bubble, but every time you progress in the postseason, the challenge gets harder.
Yep.
And this is truly his first time as kind of one of those dudes here in the conference finals. So even if you look at his numbers, they have progressed down, but I often look at players that thinking that they will eventually figure it out in the series. They'll understand how they're guarded, they'll pick their spots. But to talk about Miami, they have a winning record without Jimmy Butler, like when he's out of the lineup. Same with Tyler Hero, same with Bam, and same with Kyle Lowry. So they know, to Perk's point, they know how to plug a guy in. So if a guy's going to miss 5 games, they're going to play well without him because everyone's going to step up and it's going to be next man up. And they have it literally with all of their top 5 stars.
Well, and I talked to Eric Spoelstra about this. He said last series was the first time that Tyler Hero specifically saw a team game plan to take him out of the game.
It's a different monster when you're that dude.
And it's a sign of respect, right? But on the flip side, when you're a young player who's used to playing a certain type of way, when that swag gets taken away from you, it takes a little bit more to bounce back. So hopefully he gets healthy and is going to have a chance to do so. Something else that a lot of folks have pointed out is Miami, Richard, has only actually won 2 quarters against the Celtics. But they keep finding a way to win, right? And Eric Spoelstra, he was asked about this yesterday, by the way, and he said, I don't know, I just look at the end of the game and see what the score was. Did we win or did we lose? It doesn't matter how many quarters, as long as at the end of the game, it all totals up.
Okay, this is one thing. Do you know how many quarters it takes to win a game? 1. It takes 1. It takes 1. You only you can lose
the first quarter of that last
you can lose a quarter by 1 point, lose a quarter by 1 point, lose a quarter by 1 point, and win a quarter by 5. You won the game. So it's like I understand that they might be playing better basketball for long stretches, but if you have a drop off, if all of a sudden for a quarter you give up a 22-2 run. I'm sorry.
When you get doubled up in the first quarter.
Yeah, those are things that you can't just say, well, we've played better basketball. It's like, well, yeah, the other team, kept the foot on the gas pedal just a little bit longer.
Sure, but Perk, here's the thing, is that the pendulum swing, the momentum swing in this series has very much been the team that gets punched, they're the ones that come out and punch, and we've seen blowout after blowout after blowout in this series. So I asked Victor Oladipo yesterday, what do you need to do in order to change that pattern? He said, we have to come out and think we're the underdogs. What do you think?
No, they do have to have that mindset, and I think that they will, right? I think we'll get a better game for it tonight, in my opinion. I think it'll be a possession by possession game, but it kind of reminds me of I miss you, bro. Listen, it kind of reminds me of 2016, right? The finals. It was like each game was out of control. You played in it, right? Yeah. Game 1, game 2 was out of control, and it set it up for an epic game 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think we're on the verge of seeing that. I think guys just getting settled in, but again, we're watching 2 great defensive teams battle it out. So, I mean, we look at Jason Tatum going 3 for 14, 3 for 15, but we got to credit the Miami Heat defense for that.
Let's do exactly that. The Heat's defense, it has been a staple for this postseason. They're allowing just over 100 points per game. That's the best scoring defense in the NBA among all playoff teams. So here's Al Horford on Boston's mentality to try to help turn things around here.
Just, handle our business. We obviously lost a tough one, and we're at home, and we have an opportunity to even the series, and that's our mindset, handle our business. And the biggest thing is for us having this opportunity here at home, so we understand what's in front of us, and we embrace the challenge. We're excited about it.
All right, Horford obviously composed heading into this one. They took an L, but now they bounce back. How are they going to do that, Richard?
Well, look, it's going to be Jason Tatum, in my opinion. When you look at the postseason, the 3 games that he's really kind of struggled with, he's always bounced back. And we look at his performance. He didn't play well, 3 for 14. But this is also where the Boston team is so strong because they have other contributors. But look at this. 10 points against the Bucks in Game 3. Follows it up with a 30 ball. Game 2 against the Nets, 19. And again, this is another thing I want to point out. 10, and 19 are his worst performances, and he's in a conference finals. For a young, budding superstar, that is still impressive. But what I love, it's not your bad games that dictate you in the postseason. It's how you bounce back. And 2 of the 3, and we're going to find out what he's going to do tonight.
Well, he better have a bounce-back game. Otherwise, they'll be going home in 5. And I got the Celtics winning this series, but listen, this is their Game 7. This is Jason Tatum moment. And the one thing about Jason Tatum is the thing that I've been harping on all season long. No one is questioning his talent. No one is questioning his ability to go out there and get buckets with the best of them. But what we want to see out of Jason Tatum is him being consistent, right? And part of being a great player is him being consistent. We know Luka Doncic is going to be consistent, although they're losing. We know that Steph Curry is doing what he's doing when it matters the most.
Are you saying he's not consistent?
I'm saying there's too many up and downs. There's one bad game. I want to see a string of games. I want him to dominate for an entire series.
Well, Bam Adebayo was a difference maker last game, Woj. And now
That's cool. I'm just telling.
Robert Williams potentially back.
Yeah, I think that the return of Robert Williams looms really large for Boston. I think they felt coming into this series, Williams would have a much bigger impact on winning and losing in this series than he did against the Bucks, where Boston was able to get through that series without him. He didn't play in Game 7, although he was active. So I think especially the way you saw Bam Adebayo establish himself in the first quarter early Saturday night, I think Robert Williams, if he's back tonight, and there's some optimism about that right now, I think that certainly is going to be impactful in this game.
All right, so that's the Eastern Conference Finals side of things, but still ahead, we're going to go to the West. I am curious, do you guys want to relive the Andrew Wiggins post? And whose baby is that?
That was something, yeah.
Perk, you did tweet after the game, though. That's the same thing that Blake Griffin did to you, right?
Yep.
That's a bucket and an NFT. Carry the hell on. So let's take a look. I'm sorry, Perk.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens.
No, it's a part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, guys blow the defensive coverage, and it just happens.
Look, you the help man. What's like, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, you coming over there trying to help a teammate.
So,
my thing is this. I understand what the officials are trying to do and blah, blah. There is no foul if you get dunked on. Even if you outside the charge circle, even if you're outside the charge circle and someone comes running in, that's a dunk. That is a dunk. I'm sorry. There is no foul charge.
It took away also the ability to be able to celebrate it in the moment. It was gone.
Well, I mean, the thing.
Man, if you take a forearm to your face, that's what you get.
You know how we are. We gotta stay petty. So what? We don't have to get petty, right?
Yep,
so anytime somebody get dunked on, I want them to come on over to this side to take a little pressure off of me.
Take a little pressure. Just add them to the club. Yeah, look, I've been dunked on. We all been dunked on. It's a part of it. But I'm begging the officials. Listen. Look at me. Can I get is there any way we can zoom in closer to me? Please just zoom in. Look, slow zoom in.
Ugh.
If someone gets dunked on, it's just being dunked on. There is no reviews. There is no offensive foul. There's nothing other than just being dunked on. That's it.
And with that, let's welcome in our Warriors reporter, Kendra Andrews. Kendra, I want to get a little insight from the team side here. What are Andrew Wiggins' teammates saying about his performance so far in this series?
Yeah, Malika, the Warriors are saying that Andrew's performance has been brilliant. As we heard Klay Thompson say, he looks like Dominique Wilkins out there. Now, heading into this series, you'll remember we were talking about how Andrew Wiggins was going to be tasked with defending Luka Doncic, and he has done it extremely well. Yes, of course, Luka's scored 40 points 2 times this one series, which is ridiculous. But with Wiggins on him as the primary defender, Luka's shooting just 53%, which is his worst offensive output all postseason. Now, what makes Wiggins' ascension even crazier is that he was brought to Golden State on a trade that stemmed off of Kevin Durant's departure, a huge loss for the Warriors, obviously. But earlier today, Steve Kerr said that the addition of Wiggins has been the key to unlocking the Warriors' success this postseason.
The roller coaster ride of this year, the fact that you are so close to getting back to the opportunity to compete for a championship, like you allow your mind to kind of wander a little bit, but I think we leverage our experience enough to know that you can't do that. And for us, we always just say stay locked in on what's happening right now. I even told myself that during the game, under my breath, just stay in the moment. Because one, it's fun to compete, and you have to remember how much fun this stage is, these battles, this atmosphere. But we haven't done anything yet.
Now, Malik, I spoke with Steve Curry yesterday, and I asked him, your team historically has slower starts to these games. Can you tell when your team is going to be locked in versus when it's going to take them a little bit longer? And he said 100%. And it all comes down to the way that Draymond Green and Stephen Curry are carrying themselves, and that tells him how they're going to start out. Now, the Warriors, they're just one win away from the NBA Finals. They have an opportunity to close out this series against the Mavericks tomorrow in Game 4. The Warriors have performed poorly in closeout games so far this postseason, but they hope that the higher stakes, a spot in the finals, with that being on the line, that they will come out ready to go from the jump.
Kendra, thank you so much. So here are the latest odds to win the title. That's according to Caesar Sportsbook. The Warriors, they're the favorites. The Heat, the Celtics, they're tied right behind them. And then the Mavs are a distant fourth.
You betting on the Mavs?
I'll put a hot $100 on it.
You put $1 on it?
Yep. Why not?
Warriors, they're one win away from their 6th finals trip over the last 8 seasons. And Richard, this year, this group, it's drawn a whole lot of comparisons to the Dynasty Warriors teams. And I just want to go on the record and say, over the summer, Mark Spears, he told me that he thought that this Warriors team could make it to this point and beyond, to the finals, and I raised an eyebrow at him. I was dead wrong, Richard. Do you see similarities between these two groups?
Well, they're the same group. No, they are the same group.
Minus like a Kevin Durant-sized hole.
Yeah, but before that, they won a championship and went to a finals before him. And that's when they were in their early 20s, right? So this is the exact same group. They still have the greatest three-point shooter and a 2-time MVP. You still have Klay, the 77th best player in the history of the NBA, right? We've established that, right? And then you have Draymond, former defensive player of the year. Now, these guys are older, and to Kendra's point, they've done a good job bringing in Wiggins, the development of Jordan Poole, just the development of their younger players. And so it's like people make it seem there was the Jordan Bulls that had the Horace Grant, that was the Paxson, and then you had the Jordan Bulls that were the Dennis Rodman and that were the Steve Kerr. They were just a little bit different. They were on the bookend, and I think this is the bookend of this Warrior run. They had the first one, you had the Kevin Durant ears, and now this group right here, this is the one that rides off to the sunset.
No, I'm with you. And it's almost, again, plug and replace. You think about it, right? Same position. You look at Harrison Barnes, right? He come in, he do his thing at that position, they win the title. Then all of a sudden he leave, he get traded, you bring in Kevin Durant. And they win 2 titles. Now they're on the verge of possibly winning another title, plugging in Andrew Wiggins, which speaks volumes not only to the culture but to the leadership, right, of not just Draymond Green, but to Steph and Klay, because I think they get ignored because Draymond Green is more vocal and he's more like, animated than those guys. But at the end of the day, you think about what guys say about Steph in that locker room and his leadership skills. It's something to applaud.
Well, and understand this. Ever since Kevin Durant left, the Warriors have been working to get themselves back to 2015, 2016. So they brought in more wings. So they drafted Kuminga. They brought in Toscano Anderson. They brought Andre Iguodala back. They've been just trying to get, we're not going to have that Kevon Looney. We're not going to have that superstar. So let's go back to the way we were building the team in 15 and 16. Yep. That is where they are closer to right now.
Well, what?
What, you got something? Why?
I do. And look, I do because you know what? I was thinking last night, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that is
and when I get to thinking, it's a problem.
Yep.
When I get to thinking, it's a problem. And it's not a hot take. This is just the damn truth, right? When you look at Steph Curry, a generational talent, a guy who averaged 25 points, I believe 6 assists, 5 rebounds for his career, shooting 44%, a generational talent that has changed the game of basketball forever.
Yep.
Shots that guys are now allowed to take, it's okay.
When some you shouldn't take it.
Nah, they shouldn't. But you would get sit on the bench. So now I'm looking at it and I'm like, hold on. The way that Steph Curry has changed the game, right now in my eyes, he's already scratching or touching the surface at being the number 2 greatest point guard of all time. But if he goes and win the Finals MVP with another championship and the way that he has changed the game of basketball, now we could talk about. It's coming. You know it's coming. Look, listen, we could talk about the Mount Rushmores and whatever. I'm about to do it. They're going to have to put a little color in there for the green eyes.
Because is that why you're wearing that jacket today?
Yeah. Listen. When you change the game, this game has going to be changed forever because of Steph Curry. Guys like Trae Young need to applaud a guy like Steph Curry.
Agreed.
So generational talent. When you change the game to that level,
this is positionless basketball, right? So I view Steph more probably as a hybrid of a shooting guard than a two guard, but that's beside the point. But you have to understand, if you're going to go 10 to real quick, if you're going to go 10 to 12, right? If you're going to rank him somewhere in that space, you have to understand he's got to surpass the Bill Russells, the Kobe Bryants, the Tim Duncans, the LeBron James. Like, you got to understand that list of the top 7 is accolades that I don't think if he wins a championship and a Finals MVP, I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he stays right kind of in that space that he is in.
At the end of the day, we looking at this right, and it's no disrespect to Shaq or the late great Kobe Bryant.
I will.
I'm not saying no.
With this pen
no,
on
you
TV,
won't.
yes, I will.
You won't. There'll be some furniture moving in here. Listen, at the end of the day, this is what I'm telling you. Steph already got 2 MVP.
Yes.
Right? Shaq got 1.
Don't you do
got to walk
it.
off the set.
Bro,
Listen,
you want to talk about changing the game, Steph?
Shaq did, but Steph did too. 6'2", 6'3".
I said Shaq.
I'm rocking with. No, you making this about Shaq and Steph. That's not about. I'm not
breaking.
No, I'm not doing that, bro.
But this is what happens when Kendrick starts thinking. That's the moral of this whole story, right?
Yeah. But it's facts, though.
You were saying Steph over Shaq?
I'm saying he's a generational talent, man. I'm
like
saying
your phone is blowing up currently right now. What you saying this type of stuff?
All right, that's the west side of things. We're going to get back to that, including Dallas's fine. Did you guys see that? Still ahead, though. We're going to come back to Boston and these teams. So I want to do this a little bit hoop collective style, if I could borrow that from you for a moment, Brian, and start with you. Let you kick it around here with the reporters. But what is your feeling coming into this massive Game 4?
It reminds me of the last round when Boston was down 2-1 going in Milwaukee in Game 4, and I felt like whoever won that game was eventually going to win the series. And I feel the same about tonight. Even though the Heat have home court, even in the event of a Boston win tonight, I feel like if Boston is able to reestablish themselves, especially since we don't know what Jimmy Butler is going to be the rest of this series. We don't know what Tyler Hero is going to be the rest of this series. I'm not even sure what Kyle Lowry can give them the rest of this series. If Boston can, they gave one away that they should have won in Game 3. Turned the ball over 25% of the time. I've never seen anything like a team turning the ball over 25% of the time in a playoff game. And I know that the Heat fans would say, no, we took it. And I would say, okay, you did. Good job getting a win here. But if Boston lets this go 3-1, they can't recover. If it goes 2-2, my feel is that the Celtics would have the edge just because of health, regardless of anything else.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at the way this series has played out, the Celtics have been dominated in 2 quarters. And because of that, they've lost 2 games. Now, the 2-quarter, 2-game thing is not exactly the way this thing has played out, right? The Heat have been...
offends the Heat fans when you say that about that, just so you know. Like, they get very upset.
There's been a lot of angst about that stat. But what I will say is when you've seen the Celtics play bad, they've looked really, really bad, right? And that's been because of the way the Heat have been able to impact them with their physicality. And I think that's the whole key to this game tonight. Can the Celtics match that physicality? You saw Bam Adebayo in Game 3 come out, look like a totally different guy, blew up the Celtics at both ends. They were throwing the ball over the place. If they could take care of the ball, the Celtics definitely, I think, should win this game.
The key to me, guys, is the Heat are feeling great from a confidence standpoint. They know that a lot of people didn't think they could get Game 3. They had all these different issues and reasons why they weren't supposed to get Game 3. And there was Max Strus embodying Heat culture, draining the dagger at the end of Game 3. So no matter what happens tonight, they're already felt like they got what they needed in this stretch in Boston. But, B, to your point, if they can find a way in this game, then it sets up everything they're going to need over the next couple to get one more. But having watched Jimmy walk through, I am very curious to see how that knee is feeling. I think they are going to watch his minutes closer than ever because they know it's all a pain tolerance thing, and sometimes they have to protect him from himself.
Tim, what are you expecting out of Jimmy Butler? We heard Woj say it earlier in the show. He's going to warm up with the intent of playing.
Right. The Heat love to say the intent of play.
They love
Everybody's got the intent of playing. But look, Jimmy Butler, to me, is going to come out and give everything he's got. I think to Nick's point, the question is how much does he have, right? We saw in the first half of Game 3, he didn't have a lot. Like, when he didn't come out for the second half, we were surprised. But when you heard he had knee inflammation, you weren't stunned because of the way he looked. And I think with this series going every other day going forward, it's a real question, to Brian's point, what he's going to look like. Because if he isn't the Jimmy Butler he was in the first couple of games, the Heat have got to get this done as quick as possible because the longer this goes, the more it goes to Boston
Malika,
State.
in the first round, he missed a game because of knee inflammation against the Hawks.
Yep.
He had almost a week off because they had some days before it and some days after. You know how it is in the first round. His first game back after like a week off, he had his worst game of the playoffs, 5 of 16 shooting. Now, he did some of the same treatment yesterday that he did leading up to that, including, I'm told, dry needling, which I had once and I didn't like. And I would have been in a bad mood if I was
dry needling is.
I have it regularly and it's not fun.
Yeah. And I saw him today, and I don't think he was in a very good mood at shoot around. So I can understand that. So whether Eric Spoelstra for a decade has been saying, warming up with the intent to play, it means he's going to play. When the Celtics say Marcus Smart is questionable, that's a more accurate portrayal because twice Marcus Smart's been questionable in this postseason and then not played. So to me, when the starting lineups come out today, the active inactive, we got a lot of drama, and it's not going to be Jimmy Butler. The Jimmy Butler drama is going to be what we see him running up and down the court. The drama for the Celtics is Marcus Smart going to be cleared? Because you think it's the right ankle, and that we saw that, and that was bad. But it's not just the right ankle. He's got a right foot sprain on the same foot, and he's got a quad injury on the same leg. His whole right leg has been in one giant treatment zone now for a month. So, and the Celtics are going to have to balance caution because if they lose this game, it's big trouble, and knowing how important he is.
Absolutely, but that seems to be the case on both sides. When you look at P.J. Tucker the other day when I saw him at shoot-around, he had a stem machine hooked up to his quad, and his entire quad was jolting violently from the shaking of the stem machine. He had it this morning, too. Yeah, so it seems like injuries just for this entire...
More of attrition.
Exactly. If you enjoyed this conversation, though, please check out the Hoop Collective podcast with Brian Windhorst and the team of ESPN's insiders, sort of an in-the-life around the NBA world type of deal. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on You Live from Boston. So we're at TD Garden ahead of Game 4 between the Heat and the Celtics, but there is some other news that we need to get to. Adrian Wojnarowski joining us again. Woj, what can you tell us about some news coming out of Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm told Tim Connolly, the president of basketball operations in Denver, has now agreed to a deal to take over basketball operations in Minnesota. A massive deal. 5 years, $40 million plus.
Wow.
Plus
Bless America.
a stake of ownership equity, and that's almost like having a lottery ticket. Very few executives in the league have that kind of equity. Denver tried to keep them. Josh Kroenke, their governor, they made an offer, I'm told, that would have put Tim Connolly among the better paid GMs and executives in the league. But Minnesota transforms their organization, their front office. They have Tim Connolly is one of the most respected executives in this league, built this team in Denver, drafted Nikola Jokic with the 41st pick, and put a team around them that, when healthy, I think everybody feels is a real contender in the West. But this is a significant day for the Minnesota franchise. Their minority ownership group that's going to take over sometime in 2023, led by Mark Lowry, really were the driving forces, the recruiters in this. And now Tim Connolly goes to Minnesota with a young core and a team in Minnesota that certainly has made a leap this year. And now with Tim Connolly leading that organization, they hope he can take them further now in the Western Conference.
So for those of us in the NBA, we know the impact of Tim Connolly, those of us who are around these teams every day. But Richard, can you just contextualize this from the player perspective real quick?
Well, it's tough because Tim is one of the best in the business.
Yep.
He's one of those guys that he'll sit down, he'll shoot you straight, he'll talk with you, he'll work with you. Tim has really earned this opportunity, and you feel for a Denver Nuggets organization because that type of deal, like Woj said, is a deal that maybe only 2 or 3 ever get. And so Tim has to go do what's best for his family. He has to go take this opportunity. But, ultimately what he built in Denver, it kind of mirrors what's going on in Minnesota. They have a bunch of young talent that if you put the right pieces around, and Minnesota's like, hey, this guy's already done this job. Let's go see if he can do it here.
And you said it there, Richard. I think Tim Connolly really labored over this decision. Yeah. He is, I think, very emotionally tied to that organization, knows there's a lot of winning ahead.
Gave him a shot.
Loves Josh Kroenke, loves his coach Michael Malone and that roster. But again, life-changing money and an opportunity to lead an organization in a way very few get to do in the NBA.
Just a massive get for the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. Okay, some more news. You reported, Woj, yesterday regarding the Lakers' vacant head coaching position. What is the latest that you can tell us out of L.A.?
Yeah, L.A. made a run at Juwan Howard, Michigan's coach. There's some connections in L.A. with him. He played college basketball with Rob Pelinka at Michigan, played with the Miami Heat. with LeBron James. Obviously came up through the Heat organization as an assistant before he went to Michigan. But Juwan Howard declined those overtures. He's going to stay.
Good decision.
Continue to stay at Michigan. The Boston Celtics made a run, too, at him last year. And so Juwan Howard has made it very clear where his loyalties lie. He's going to have 2 of his sons playing for him next season at Michigan. And so this Lakers search continues now. We talked about the 3 finalists, Terry Stotts, Kenny Atkinson, and, of course, Darvin Ham of the Bucks.
So with Juwan Howard out of the mix, is there anything that we can glean here about the Lakers' pursuit?
I think it bodes well for Darvin Ham's candidacy. There's a lot of similarities with Juwan Howard, Darvin Ham. Neither has been a head coach in the NBA, but both, I think, check a lot of boxes of what I think intrigues the Lakers and other teams. I think the presence, the leadership, the stature of them. Darvin Ham had been an assistant about a decade ago in LA for a couple of years. And tactically, he's a really good basketball coach. And you look at Mike Budenholzer's coaching tree. Yep. His guys have done very well. Taylor Jenkins, Quinn Snyder, Kenny Atkinson among them. And so there'll be some in-person interviews now in LA. Ham, Stotts, Atkinson. Those are really, it's always fluid. You can always open it back up. But for now, those are the 3 finalists. And I think Darvin Ham, listen, not only with the Lakers, there's a lot of interest in him, too, in Charlotte. Mitch Kupchak, the Charlotte general manager, he was with Darvin Ham during his stint as an assistant a decade ago. So he knows him, just like he knows Mike D'Antoni, former head coach with the Lakers. And I think that history helps them in Charlotte. But I think Darvin Ham is certainly a candidate to keep watching in this Lakers process. You could see if you wanted to go after Juwan Howard, and they did, you see how Darvin Ham, again, checks a lot of the boxes that Juwan might, and I think his candidacy is one to watch in L.A.
Well, I look at the positive experience that you've seen with Ime here and with Willie Green in New Orleans. But also there's some similarities there. We want to talk about Budenholzer's coaching tree. Well, it also kind of goes up to the Popovich coaching tree because you look at when you look at a guy like a Darvin Ham who was with Budenholzer, Coach Bud. But then you also look at so was Ime. And Ime was then in Brooklyn. So there's this kind of weird coaching tree where they all support each other. They can all lean on each other. It's like, hey, how should I do this? How should I handle that? And I think if you're going to enter into this Lakers situation, which is, it doesn't matter who the next head coach is, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Stop with all that. Coach's tree, Christmas tree, pine tree. Nobody trying to hear that. Listen, it's all about how you demand and get the respect of the locker room nowadays as far as the players. And when you look at the coaches around the league, what's the difference between Brad Stevens and Ime Udoka? Ime Udoka, I'm watching him. He's meeting guys at half court, getting on his prime, on his superstar caliber players and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You look at Darvin Ham, even in the last series, you saw him blowing up on the sideline. You saw him getting into it with Bobby Portis, and Bobby Portis simmering down because of the respect that he has for Darvin Ham. And I think that goes a long way. It's not all about watching film. It's not all about defensive schemes and X's and O's. It's about demanding the locker room, getting the best out of your players, and making sure they go out there and hold them accountable. And I think Darvin Ham is best suitable for this Lakers job.
Kind of like Ime and Willie Green and some of the guys that we were just talking about.
Man, listen, all you did was talk about the tree. You didn't give me nothing else.
All right.
More examples.
You keep your tree over there. Still ahead on NBA Today. The Daily Wager crew swings through to offer their 2 cents on tonight's bets.
Let's go.
Bets. Say that to